I see a lot of videos now on YouTube of fellas in their 20s talking about how they spend their 60 to 100k salary, the side hustles they've been using to make extra money, and all the crazy investments and money making opportunities they've come across. And I'm not knocking them at all. In fact, I kind of want to congratulate them and give them a well done because those achievements aren't easy. And they've personally inspired me to be better and build a healthier relationship with my money. But what about us brokies, the povos, still milling around minimum wage, who are struggling but managing, want a side hustle but don't believe we have the skills, the know-how, or the time to get something up and running? The average person on a stifled and stagnant wage, who comes from a less than perfect background, dabbles in their debts, or just blows their money on one big holiday a year. That's been me for all my work in life. Over a decade now. There's been times I've saved a killing, but things come up and knock you down. Take that hard-earned cash, whether you like it or not. It sometimes feels like money can be unobtainable, and some of us are destined to always be poor, no matter how much time and effort we put into our jobs. I've watched, within my lifetime, money and work change so much to the point where a single person on a single full-time wage doesn't really cut it anymore. Side hustles have gone from making a few extra bucks so you can party a little harder on the weekend to something needed to pay your rent or mortgage, to keep you and your family afloat. It's been talked to death recently about how expensive things are becoming and how wages haven't followed inflation and that our pounds or our dollars just aren't worth the same. So, who am I to talk about a subject that can be so personal, one that affects us all and gives us so much pleasure and pain? So, hi, I'm George, I'm 29, and I'm a chef on a 0-hour contract. My wages fluctuate between $1,500 and $2,500. So I'd say I roughly make 2k a month, and I feel rather privileged to be making that much because I know a lot of people out there don't, and it's the highest wage I've ever made. I rent a room in a house share in a decent city in England. My rent is £500 a month, and it's the cheapest place I could find. I don't have any side hustles, although I keep procrastinating coming up with some ideas, and I struggled with holding on to my money since I started working 12 years ago. And I've been in and out of debt as well, but finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm out for good this time. Now my little honest AA style introduction is out of the way, we can continue. Money problems can be some of the most stressful and harrowing things we go through. Living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to figure out if you'll have enough money to properly feed yourself before your next payday. It's actually one of the scariest feelings I've ever gone through. It is something that never leaves your mind. It keeps you up at night and something you're just constantly aware of. I honestly wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Now, as you can probably tell, I've been through this once or twice in my life, and as this new year, 2026, turned over, I told myself I never want to let myself get into that situation ever again. I realized that I can continue to waste money here and there, and I might just be used to living in relative poverty, but I hope to have kids in the future, and grandkids, and I want to be able to treat them, That's kind of my personal goal to myself, to get comfortable with money so that future generations can grow up safe and without the harrowing money problems I've occasionally dipped my feet into. Now, I'm not saying I wasted my money like I gambled it all away, although I did do that one time. I just wasn't very frugal. I would happily treat myself to something if I thought I really wanted it, and often I found myself spending a lot of money on groceries because I'm a chef and I love to cook. I had subscriptions to services I never used, 30 quid to have access to a gym I was too scared to go to. And maybe about once a year, something big would happen and I'd have to give up my savings to fix it. Whether it was just moving to nicer accommodations, phones breaking, or even just trying to squeeze a little extra out of a holiday because fuck it, I'm on holiday. I should treat myself, right? And now fucking around 10 years ago was doable. A pint of beer was literally half the price it currently is. A weekly shop for one person was doable with 20 quid. And I used this is so funny to me because I used to go out with 20 to 30 pounds on a Saturday night, get absolutely wankered, get a kebab, get a taxi home, and I would still have change in my pocket. And now I can't like leave my house without spending £30 minimum. It's like there's a tax on walking out my front door. And this is all change I've lived through. And it's been so quick. And I know some people are talking about it, but I think a lot of people don't like talking about it. It's uncomfortable to them. Things are more expensive. Many things aren't worth their cost anymore. A beer with friends is needed from time to time, but going to the pub every night is not. It is genuinely financially irresponsible nowadays. Like, it used to be that being the town drunk used to be a fun, affordable hobby, you know, and now it just drains you dry. We've grown accustomed to these new prices for things, and we're happy to fork out the extra cash, but really it's not worth what we are getting. Video games, I know they cost a lot to make, but are they really worth £70? I can't bring myself to spend that much money on something I don't know I'll enjoy. People tell me my rent is cheap, and yeah, it's cheap compared to everywhere else currently, but should a fella really have to fork out £500 a month for a single room in a shared house? Like, I took this place because it is cheap, but I don't think it's worth it. It's a bed to sleep in. I spend more time at work than I do in this house. And I see people happily pick up a big pack of chicken breasts that costs extortionate amounts of money and chuck them in their basket. And I might be sounding a little like a cheap ass here, but that is not worth the price. Come on. Those little increases in the price of things over the last couple of years have really they just compound, and the amount of money you can spend on in a week on a grocery shop is just it's getting silly now. I think rising costs just become normalized and to be expected, and just people pay anyway. So companies now think they can charge hiked prices, and they know people will fork out the cash. This is a little side tangent here. But it turns out you don't really need a lot to live. Sometimes you don't need that new game, or you see a new phone in the shop, but it's an extortionate amount of money. But it looks so appealing. But you don't have to like these new prices. You don't have to buy these things. You have a mountain of games to play, books to read, shows to watch. You already have an up-to-date phone, and an upgrade is just unnecessary spending. And once we all begin to think like that, we don't have to buy these things. If we stop spending our money on the things we don't need, but we only kind of want, companies might realize that their price is too high. They can't sell these things at that price anymore. And maybe, just maybe, and it might just be me being really optimistic here, but fingers crossed they could even start bringing their prices lower and lower until they're eventually affordable for us. I don't know, just something I think about on occasion. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but it works wonders in my mind. Yeah, where was I going with this video? Living within your means. People think being frugal is being cheap, being a tight ass, never spending any money and never going out. And obviously that's extreme and not really plausible for most people. We all kind of want to live life a little. Really, what being frugal is about choosing what matters most to spend your hard-earned money on. Cutting out what doesn't seem necessary or can be seen as overspending. It's not about spending less. It's about wasting less. You know that Netflix subscription that I paid for years, but stopped using 9 months ago? Yeah? That's not needed. That 10 to 20 quid could go somewhere else. Going out every night after work for a drink or two? That's not needed. I can do it once or twice a week instead, and I just sleep better the other days, That new game came out and it looks pretty sick. If I wait a week or two, I tend to just lose interest. And I've got so many fucking games that I've got bought and never played. Just start those instead, okay? Living within your means is probably the most important thing we can do nowadays with all these rising costs. It's difficult to stay afloat and to save money and to put some aside to invest in your future. And it's even more difficult to stay disciplined enough to do that month in, month out. But having that extra cash on the side when you're used to counting your coppers, it will legitimately change your life and how you view the world and your thoughts on money. So far, and this is me being a bit honest again here, after trying to be as frugal as possible this year, I've invested 1,200 into the S&P 500, which couldn't have come at a worse time thanks to that war in Iran. Woo! And I've got £300 to £400 in savings that I'm hoping to boost a little this payday. I hear about these emergency funds often, and they kind of sound like a great idea. And that is to me, this is the first step to financial freedom. It isn't my goal, but, it definitely could be yours. To me, financial freedom means you don't have to worry about money. Having a couple months' worth of living expenses on the side in a savings account must change your whole worldview, because having only like £2,000 saved up for me, it's changed how I act every day. I'm not spending any more than I usually do, but I just have a peace of mind knowing that if I wanted to, I could. I could treat myself to a coffee if I wanted it, And if something goes wrong, I know I have the peace of mind that I can afford to fix it without genuinely being fucked. And I know a lot of people won't be able to put like a crazy amount of money aside every month, but even 50 quid, 100 quid put aside every payday will add up and slowly give you that peace of mind that you can escape this pseudo poverty, that you can build a little nest egg for yourself and become more comfortable around money and your spending habits. Because if you're like me and you've been in those dire circumstances, you'll know you want to break that curse as quickly as possible, Step 1 would just be to budget correctly. Open a spreadsheet and write down what you spend every day for a month. Break down what's needed and what can be cut. Visibly recognize where you can spend less, and just be aware of when you can treat yourself as well, because being frugal and making changes is fucking hard, and you're allowed to reward yourself for being good on occasion. You don't have to go balls to the wall saving mode. You can treat yourself. And step 2 would be to just put any spare money aside. Put it in a savings account. Build a little emergency fund if you have any spare. Stick it in the S&P and forget about it. Having money sat in your checkings account, it just kind of tempts you to spend it. And step 3 is to just have a reason. For me, it's future kids and future family. But I see many people on YouTube wanting to make $1 million before 30, and that's fucking commendable. Maybe you want to buy a house in this awful market, or just, you just want to feel better about yourself and your finances. Just come up with a reason. Have a reason, a conviction that you can fall back on when motivation fails. And really, that's all I've done so far, but it's working for me. And I'm sure I'll try more things in the future, but these 3 things are just sorting themselves out so far for 2026. And you got to remember as well, if you have a regular monthly wage, unlike me, who goes up and down all the time, you can actually begin to plan out where your money will go every payday. And this just makes it easier, a bit more automated. And I'm not going to pretend like this will make you rich. I just hope it'll calm that deep worry money can cause and build some strong habits that will help you reach whatever goal you're after. Let's take the stress out of finances, give ourselves more control around our money, and hopefully more freedom in the future to do what we want to do. It's never been more easier to spend money, which is why I think we need to be more careful. Learn from my mistakes, and the poor old man, learn from me and all the silly stuff that I've done. I'm sure I'll talk about money more in the future. And if you want to hear some funny stories about my spending habits, let me know in the comments. But thank you for watching. And I hope we can all just be a little bit more intentional with our money in the future. Love you lots. Bye bye.